This is Dave, and you're listening to 80s Reboot Overdrive. And what we're doing is we are continuing our series of my favorite cartoons that were on Saturday mornings in the 1980s. And as you've grown to expect as I've been going through these this series, is that I ramble a bit about a bunch of other stuff. Sometimes in the 80s, sometimes not. In most cases, not. So I'm hoping that I haven't lost anybody on the way. But I think it's just something that I've been playing around with as a format, and I hope you guys are along for the ride, enjoying it. But if you're not, I am terribly sorry about that. I think if you're into just listening to retro topics and nothing else, then I'm not delivering on that. But I've been trying to get a little more personable with this series. As I identified in the last episode of this series, this is the final stretch of my time on 80s Reboot Overdrive. And so what I wanted to do was give a bit more insight as to, I don't know, how I'm wired and what I'm thinking of and things along those lines. This time around, I'm thinking about talking about my freshman year of high school, and so that's definitely a 80s topic. So I'm going to be bleeding in a few memories in between the cartoon intros that I want to play. But since I'm in the year of 1984 on this one, I've got a lot of intros that are on this list that have piqued my interest. So I might be playing a lot more intros and a lot less rambling. So this might be a fun show for you if you're into listening to that stuff. Let's play that bumper. Let's do that first.
Sword of Omens, give me sight beyond sight.
Greetings, Starfighter. You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Sur and the Kodan Armada. Get ready? Prepare for blast-off.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88. Roads? Well, we're going. We don't need roads.
Remember, no matter where you go, there you are.
This is 80s Reboot Overdrive Podcast.
Oh my god. That is like so dated.
Lately what I've been thinking about as I'm playing the intro or the bumper for 80s Reboot Overdrive is that one of these times I'm going to replace it with the music that they used on Caddyshack, where Tripper is waking up in the morning and he's got to play the morning announcements, and then he says he's going to play the national anthem, and then he ends up playing something with like a bunch of bagpipes. So I might randomly throw that in here now that I'm thinking of it, if I can find that audio clip just on a one of these future episodes, just because I can, and then to trip you guys up and see if anybody catches a reference. Maybe I don't even bring it up. I just play the whole audio clip of him talking when he's doing his morning introductions for the camp, North Star. But But yeah, that was me rambling again. As I said, we're talking about 1984 Saturday morning cartoons. Let's jump right into topic so that we can get a few of these intros played. So spring of 1984, first thing in the morning on ABC was Monchi Cheese. CBS had Charlie Brown and Snoopy, and then NBC had Flintstone Funnies. In the fall of 1984, ABC had Super Friends, and that lasted a good 2 hours, it looks like. Or was that an hour block? No, that was only an hour block. Okay, Super Friends would have been on for an hour. And then we had Shirt Tales on CBS, and then Snorks on NBC at the 8:30 hour on spring of 84. Little Rascals Richie Rich. Saturday Supercade was on CBS, and then Shirt Tales NBC. Fall of 1984, ABC still had Super Friends. CBS, Get Along Gang, and Pink Panther and Sons on NBC. That only takes us through the first hour of the day, but I've got this queued up, so let's listen to it.
All aboard! Wake up! I'm just an attention-getting kind of guy. Heads up, there's blue whales in the sky. I didn't want you to miss this train, the most astounding USA Cartoon Express. Here's the plan. It's a visit with a quality clan. Jumpin' clams, it's the Snorks. Underwater trouble, it's trouble undersea. Calling the mayor, calling the Snork Patrol. Give us the old 1-2 all-star. We can't let this go too far. Wish I might be with the Snorks tonight. You don't have to wait that long. How about right now?
Come along with the Snorks. Swim along with the Snorks. So much to see waiting for you and me. Have some fun with the Snorks. Play along with the Snorks. Sing along with the Snorks. Happy we'll be living under the sea. Come along with the Snorks. If you could breathe underwater, where would you go? If you had friends underwater, who would you know? Come on, sing along, swim along too. Yeah! Come along with the Snorks. Swim along with the Snorks. So much to see waiting for you and me. Swim along with the, have some fun with the, come along with the Snorks.
I'm going to go on record to say that I was not a fan of the Snorks. I didn't watch the Snorks at all. But I know a lot of you were. So that was for you. That was for you, my listener. And I wanted to play that because I knew that the theme song was snappy. As it was. I enjoyed that. So that's why I wanted to play that. I've got nothing to contribute other than maybe an observation that was that the NBC's version of just trying to find a spinoff for Smurfs. They already had something going on with Smurfs and they wanted to expand to something as an underwater theme. I don't know the logic there, but if I think when you have a property like Smurfs that are working, you try to find other properties that you can use to spin off. And I don't think the Snorks ever got to the popularity of the Smurfs, but maybe it's one of those things where you've got a division of people where you have like Transformers against GoBots. You have the camps of people that feel one is superior than the other, and maybe there's the division between Snorks and Smurfs. I don't know if there is. I'd be curious to know if there's a counterculture out there of pro-Snork, anti-Smurf. So represent. If you are, go ahead and hashtag be proud. Put that on Twitter. I'd love to see a Smurf / Snork battle royale on the internet of fans of both of those shows, and see who's kind of the more diehard. So, as I alluded to in the intro of this show, I want to talk a little bit about my freshman year of high school. And as I've alluded to on more than one occasion, I was just a nerdy, geeky kind of guy. So that was a crowd I ran in with. So my friends were of that same caliber. We were kind of nerdy kind of people. And I'll go on record to say that I was not the smartest of the group as far as math and science. They were the people I ran with were leagues above me in those areas. They just got it. They knew, it was like a musical instrument. They just knew how to play. So a lot of times I had to do a lot of extra effort to stay in that league. And somehow my freshman year, I had the ability to take honors level classes. But I'm, by nature, probably have tendencies of being a bit lazy, procrastination. And that doesn't help when you've got to really struggle to maintain grades. So that was actually the last year that I had I was in that same realm of honors classes. And it was also the year before I moved. So my, at the end of my freshman year, it was going to be a upheaval for me, because I was going to end up moving to a different area of the state, and then, not have the familiar friends that I had growing up, from kindergarten through 9th grade. But I think going into my 9th year, I didn't realize that was what's going to happen, at my, after my 9th grade year. I don't remember when I got that knowledge of it. But going back to the point of my story is that I had these really smart friends, and one of the things that me and my friends Keith, Robbie, Damon, and I believe my friend Mark also, had decided to do was that we were in an honors math class together and decided to join the math club. So we're freshmen in the math club. So yes, it sounds a lot like a breakfast club already. I know. Pathetic. But what we had in the math club was that we decided to give ourselves the nicknames based on math terms. And for some reason, I thought it was cool to have a name that sounded like the Terminator. But what I chose was the Denominator. So, yours truly was in the math club with the math nickname Denominator. Not giving that a lot of thought. As as I've gotten older, of course, I've given that, some thought, and I'm like, okay, well, that's the bottom of the equation. Maybe that wasn't my most brilliant idea. I don't think that I was definitely anyone that helped, really carry the team. And there was a lot of team members that were a lot better at that kind of thing than I am. Or I was, but nonetheless, it was the social aspect of it, and I think that if you watch Breakfast Club and Brian's talking about the Trigonometry Club and things along those lines, it was a lot like that. It was a social aspect thing, and I don't remember us having any kind of social gathering, but it was just every so we would be able to go to a math competition and do that kind of thing. But like I said, I don't think I was really any good at any of that. But it got me away from the TV and my computer, at least for a little bit, to do something somewhat sociable. So that was it. That was my foray in the math club and my stupid nickname. So let's talk about our 9 o'clock hour, 1984, of Saturday morning cartoons. ABC had New Scooby and Scrappy-Doo. CBS still had that Saturday Super Kid going on, and NBC had the Smurfs. ABC, fall of 1984, had Mighty Orbots. CBS had Jim Henson's Muppet Babies. And then still fall of 1984 on NBC, we had Smurfs. And that gets us to, 9:30 hour. 9:30 in 1984, ABC had Pac-Man, Rubik the Amazing Cube. CBS had Dungeons and Dragons. Smurfs are still on NBC. And then ABC had Turbo Teen in the fall. CBS had Saturday Supercade. And then NBC still had those beloved Smurfs on. And there's actually... I'm going to go ahead and get through this last half-hour block just because that kind of starts everything anew on the next block. So 10 o'clock, the only shows that changed were in the spring of 84 on CBS, Tarzan. So ABC still had Pac-Man and Rubik the Amazing Cube, and then NBC still had Smurfs going on. And then the only thing that changed in the fall of 1984 on ABC was Dragon's Lair. So you actually, Turbo Teen turned into Dragon's Lair. CBS still had that Saturday Supercade going on during that time frame, and Smurfs are still on NBC. So believe it or not, there's actually three intros that are in that block that I want to play. So we're going to play back-to-back these things and maybe come back and have some fun talking about them. So let's start with one.
Go, mighty Orbots. They're joining together to fight for what's right everywhere. Mighty Orbots, protecting the world from the shadow of evil and doom. Orbots, champions of justice and truth. Oh no! Wow! Boom! Fresh!
Alright, so that would have been Mighty Orbots. A very fun take on the whole Voltron thing. You have various robots forming in to make one gigantic one. So I thought that was kind of cool, but let us jump into another intro. Let's see here. Spell it correctly is always fun. Alright, let's try this guy.
It was a stormy night when a bolt of lightning forced me off the road. My car skidded into a government laboratory where a top-secret experiment was underway. I swerved into the path of Dr. Chase's molecular transfer ray, causing me and my car to become one. The incredible Turbo Teen!
Alright, so that was Turbo Teen. And I actually have one more that was in all of that block of stuff that I wanted to play for you. So let's do that. All right, from an auditory aspect, that last one I played meant absolutely nothing to anybody. I'd be so curious to find out if anybody that was listening to that theme song intro, and I was like, oh yeah, I recognize that cartoon immediately. But yeah, I was expecting a little bit more from like an intro, like a voiceover kind of a thing, but that intro had none of it. So which one was it? Do you know? Bueller? That was actually Dragon's Lair. So wasn't going to leave you hanging. I was going to tell you what that was. Dragon's Lair being that epic cartoon game that was out at that time frame. And yeah, they were trying to monopolize a lot of pop culture type things into cartoons. And, you know, that was already in a format of a cartoon, but just in a video game. So I think that that played well in the cartoon arena. And, you know, as I said on the previous episode, you know, that played into a lot of the fantasy type things that I was into back then with Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. And just from a fun note, a promo that I saw for Stranger Things Season 2, they're playing Dragon's Lair. So how epic is that? So looking forward to seeing that being at least referenced in that wonderful Netflix show. If you're an 80s fan and you haven't discovered Stranger Things yet, then you need to get on the ball and start watching that. You know, season 1, like immediately. Watch it, you know, every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So the things that, you know, I covered in that area was, what did I play for you guys? Mighty Orbots, Turbo Teen, and Dragon's Lair. Orbots, you know, I just thought that was a fun show. I just remember enjoying the robots with personality, and, you know, one of those things where, much like other things like Transformers, you know, that were able to join together and form a bigger robot, and Voltron and things along those lines, that was all very cool in that same kind of fun format going on. And I'm curious to see if they're going to, you know, in the future years. I don't remember if that one just lasted 1 year, or if that was something that was hanging around for a while after they introduced it. So as we get to the latter years here in the 80s, we're going to find out. Turbo Teen, I just thought that was fun. You know, it was just a fun concept. I think maybe at the time, I don't know if I really embraced it that much, but I know that there was a love affair with automobiles, you know, and you get a lot of that with, you know, the shows that were popular, like the Dukes of Hazzard, or movies that became popular, like Smokey and the Bandit. People really were into their cars, and when you had a muscle car, that was something. And in this respect of this cartoon, you had a teenager that turned into a muscle car. I think it was a Corvette, if I remember seeing that. So, you know, just fun concept of a show. Kind of cheesy, but you know, that was our beloved 80s. You know, cheesy cartoons. You know, gotta love it. And Dragon's Lair, like I already talked about that and why I liked it. So I'm sitting here trying to think of another, like, freshman year story to share with you from my high school. And my mind started to drift to try to remember teachers that were significant or impacting. And so this would have been my final year in Clewiston High School before moving to Claremont High School. And I'm racking my brain. I really don't remember a lot of teachers from my 9th grade year that really, were so impacting that that it stuck with me. I do remember. I wish I was great with names. I don't remember the names at all, but I just remember I remember thinking the math teacher was nice, and I think that's what kind of propelled me to join the math team. But I don't remember her name. I wish I did. I do remember a history teacher that pretty much would stand. He would have a podium set up in the front of the class, and would, in essence, read from the book. And so, if you think of from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the guy that does Bueller, the economics teacher. This guy wasn't too far off from his delivery as far as lessons. So he would read from the book, and I remember that we had an ongoing assignment that you wouldn't turn in until the end of the semester, and you were to outline the book. He had a specific format that he wanted you to go through as the chapters that we covered and outline every one of them. But he wouldn't be asking that of homework on a regular basis, and it was up to you to keep up with it. And at the end of the semester, you would turn your notebook in that shows your outlines. And so since there was like no ongoing structure for turning in those assignments, and since I've mentioned in the past that I usually wasn't one to be mega, on top of things, procrastination was the key of my life in my growing up, to my detriment. A lot of times when we were getting near the end of the semester, when that turning in the notebook was due, that would be the mad rush for me to create those outlines. So yeah, I wasn't a great student at all. And I just remember Mr. Martin's class being challenging, because there was in my mind, there was really nothing being added to in the class, because I was, it was just him regurgitating the book, and the ongoing homework assignment was outlining the book. So it's kind of like, well, do we really need somebody to stand in front of the class and read that for us? Why not just give us the book and say, have at it, and we'll give you a test on what you read. So yeah, for some reason that's what stands out, and I'm not listing him as a impacting teacher, just something that you carry with you through life, because for whatever reasons you're like, okay, well, if I was ever a teacher, I would not be him. And not saying that, he's a bad guy, just his style of teaching wasn't something that meshed well with my then 13-year-old mind. Didn't trigger the imagination. There's so many different routes that you could have introduced history to teenagers that I think would have been more impacting. There's definitely a lot of some serious events that have happened in, even the United States history, let alone history of the world, that can be introduced in such a way that will be significant for students. And this guy just, I don't know, just didn't have that ability. But it seems that every 80s movie had a character like that, didn't it? You know, I think the movie Teachers, if you remember a Nick Nolte thing, where you would have a teacher that would just hand out Xerox copies, and they were to do their, you know, pop quiz every day. And he would sit in the back of the class and just read his paper and fall asleep, take a nap. And so I think there was enough teachers out there that were kind of in that vein that when you see that kind of thing on a movie or on a TV show, you go, oh yeah, I associate with that guy because I had Mr. or Mrs. Blank, teach me something, and that was that person. So there you go. It was actually a teacher story that I did ramble a bit about. So how about that? That was kind of fun. And a little life lesson from Dave. Where are we at? We're in 1984, and we are talking about the 10:30 block of 1984 on Saturday morning cartoons. ABC had The Littles. CBS had Bugs Bunny Roadrunner. NBC had Alvin Chipmunks. In the fall, we had New Scooby-Doo Mysteries. CBS had Pole Position, and NBC Alvin and the Chipmunks. Let us go. Well, we're just going to wrap up the blocks here, the hour block here. So it's 11 o'clock, 1984. ABC had Little Puppy's Further Adventures. CBS still had Bugs Bunny Roadrunner. NBC had Mr. T. ABC Candlepin Bowling. CBS in the fall had Candlepin Bowling for ABC. And then CBS had Vid Kids, fall of 1984. And then NBC had Kid Video. And then the final time slot on ABC in spring had Best of Scooby-Doo. CBS still had that Bugs Bunny Roadrunner. NBC had Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man. Fall of 1984, ABC still had Candlepin Bowling. CBS had Pryor's Place. NBC had Mr. T. So between all of those, let's see, which one is the one I want to bring up? Well, I think that if you've been listening to my references, you're probably going to know what is going to be brought up. We'll see if you guess it. Once I cue it up, I should have queued it up before. I'm a slacker.
I'm playing it on and on. People saying I'm crazy. I'm always on my own. I spies around me. I take just turns me on. From my video to my radio. It's giving me rocking. It's getting me moving on. From my video to my radio.
I'm taking you to the flip side.
What happened? Ay, ay, ay. We look like
Cartoons.
You'll be my musical slaves forever.
Alright, so that is Kid Video. I've referenced that a lot, so that really should have been obvious to you that I was going to play that one. honestly, I had thought when I was looking at the list earlier of playing Pole Position. I'm curious, did anybody watch that? Pole Position, I think it was one of those things where it was an interesting idea that, let's turn that video game into a cartoon, but I don't remember it being executed very well at all. The appeal of Kid Video, I think, was being able to incorporate what was becoming very popular and what we'd be leading into MTV, or a byproduct of MTV, is the music videos. And they would incorporate various recording artists that had music videos as being captured by Master Blaster. And his sole purpose was to somehow steal the talent of that so that his band would be the best in their cartoon world. And I don't remember the premise too much, but for some reason it was kind of akin to back in the 70s, Boogaloos. They had a musical band, and then they had a nemesis that would always want to have her music be better than theirs. And so Master Blaster was the same for Kid Video. And so that formula was kind of used throughout, the theme of those episodes. But what helped Kid Video a lot was that they would incorporate music videos from the recording artist, and also Kid Video had their own, the band had their own music videos that they would bookend on those episodes. And it was just good cheesy 80s music. I remember liking that a lot. So Kid Video I was a fan. We should have t-shirts. We should really have Kid Video t-shirts. And I don't know if those exist out there, but maybe somebody should make some. I don't know. Maybe I'll put myself on the hook for doing something like that. Maybe there's some way that I'd be able to put something like that on a t-shirt and walk around at a comic book show and see who else gets it. What other child of the 80s goes, oh my God, I need that shirt. Just the fairy, Glitter. It was Glitter, wasn't it? And just have her alone on the t-shirt with her leg warmers. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway, that's the 1984 Saturday morning cartoons. I'm kind of done with my topics from my freshman high school year. I don't know if I've got anything significant other than that was the one year that my sister she was graduating high school, and that was actually, you know what? We're not talking 1984 right now. We're talking my freshman year in high school, which would have been 86. She would have been graduating high school, and I would have been a freshman. So it was the only time that we shared the same campus. And I'm not saying that my sister was uber cool, but she had her clique. And it was one of those where her clique and my clique didn't really correlate together. Even though there was a girl friend of hers that I would have loved to have on my clique because I had a crush on. But it's one of those things where you appreciate the fact that she's around, because then you do get to see the girl that you've got the crush on a little bit more frequently than you normally would, other than just walking around the school grounds and hoping to see her. In this case, it was like, I get to actually interact with her and, have the fantasy that someday she will go out on a date with me and kiss me or something like that. And of course, none of that ever happened because she's a senior, I'm a freshman, and I was a nerdy freshman to boot. So that never existed. Even though, as you are in that age group, you probably show your emotions a little bit too much. So I think they knew that I had a crush on her, and they probably liked to tease me about that. I'm sure she knew, but it was like one of those things that nothing ever happened with. And then after my freshman year, then my sister graduated and went to college, and we moved to Central Florida. And as I said, Claremont. And then I would have a whole different adventure in my sophomore year of kind of getting established and, trying to break out of the introverted side as much as possible to actually make new friends and new cliques. So the thing that I've always been a little jealous of people, and this goes from somebody that's moved, is, you've had, if you had the ability to grow up in the same school and have the same friends throughout your whole school career, I'm talking from your kindergarten, first grade, all the way through your senior year, and you get to graduate with those people, I feel that you have a somewhat of more of a connection with those people. And somehow it's easier to, especially if you stay in the same town, your parents stay in the same town that you grew up in. You get to, you get to foster those connections, and you stay with those connections. And I never really had that, because you look back in the 80s, it's not like we had Facebook. It's not like we had iPhones. We didn't have a method to stay connected as easy. There was a phone, but being a teenage boy, it's not like one of those things where you're going to be spending hours on the phone with other boys. So, the people that I had mentioned before, the Keith, Robbie, Damon, those guys became a disconnect when I moved. I didn't have the ability to stay in contact as easy as, modern day times we would. We would be, in modern times, we'd be connected with Instagram, or would be connected with Snapchat or Facebook and stuff like that. We didn't have that back in the 80s. So those guys, while they're actually only 2 of them are Facebook friends currently, but we, somehow through the years, it's just kind of, that's all they are. They're an occasional blurb up on my Facebook as an update. And I was like, oh, they're doing that now. Cool. Or, okay, that's a picture of their wife now. Oh, cool. They're going on vacation. Great. Luckily, nobody posts pictures of what they're eating, which is kind of funny when people do that. But, I think, that's the challenge between what I grew up in the 80s and modern day times, is that if you do run into a situation where you had moved somewhere in your school career, you somehow lose that connection. And it'd be interesting to find out if there's other people that had that kind of move and they still were tight with their childhood friends before they left. And I'd be really curious, because I think that there's something where a female will foster that long distance relationship better than a male. So if you're a dude did you move during somewhere in your grade school career and you're still in contact with your original friends that you were in grade school with? Love to hear from you to find out if you had like an experience like me, or like, you know, as depicted in the movie Stand By Me, where they just kind of fell off contact with each other. I don't know. You know, maybe I'm talking out my butt and everybody is like, you know, Dave, you just didn't try as hard, and you should have. So anyway, that's me rambling and talking about 1984 Saturday morning cartoons. Hope you enjoyed this episode. As I alluded to on the last episode in this series, I am somewhat counting down the episodes left of me being involved in 80s Reboot Overdrive, and I'll be then working exclusively on Bonsai Retro Club. So we're now done with 1984. So I've got, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89... 5 episodes left of this series, and I'm hoping to do a final wrap-up episode with Scott and Rose, and then, you know, we'll close the chapter on our run with 80s Reboot Overdrive. So I hope you enjoy this one, and you know, please go out there, follow on Twitter 80s Reboot and Facebook 80s Reboot. And if you want to follow along with the new stuff, go to the website bonsairetroclub.com and check that out. There, all the social media links are on that. I don't want to get into the, you know, all the different avenues on that. So, as I wrap this up, just want to say thank you for reliving the 80s, and be excellent to each other. Let's play that outro bumper right here. We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s. And I think I'm done with podcasting stuff tonight. Yeah, I don't think I've got 1985 in me at this moment, because I actually did 1983 and 84 today, so I've done those in conjunction, which is great, because I still haven't posted 1982 yet, and now I've got 2 episodes for 83, 84, so in the ideal perfect world, provided I'm not a slacker, I get these bad boys edited, and I've got another 3 weeks of content for 80s Reboot Overdrive, and you'll be able to be listening to that, and hopefully if I get my butt in gear and bang out 1985, 86, then we'll have even more episodes in the can, and you guys continue to get stuff. And why am I talking about this? You already know all this, don't you? Anyway, have a good night, everybody. Or a good whatever, depends on when you're listening.